If you want to service and do repair on an electric vehicle or replace compressor, trust Nissens experts. No worries, we've got you. Today we're going to be looking at the Peugeot E208 electric vehicle. What we've been told from the owner is that the compressor does not work. He experienced that because during the winter time it wouldn't heat up the vehicle. You have to remember, when you've got a heat pump system in a vehicle like this, the compressor has to produce both cool air and warm air and make sure that the battery pack has the right temperature. So what we're going to do is going to replace the compressor. We're going to put the diagnosis in place, and we're going to make sure that we flush the system without removing a single component. So when the car actually goes back on the road and the system is working, we know that the system is absolutely clean. What we're doing now is we're recovering refrigerant from the AC system. We have to do that to replace the compressor. Once you've done that, we're going to be flushing it with this specific AC unit. There are different ways of doing that, but this time we've chosen to use a specific unit to do it. The reason why we've chosen this AC machine is that we can actually flush the system, drain the oil without removing a single component. In many cases, you have to remove the compressor and the condenser and the dryer to actually flush the system. That's time consuming, but with this AC machine, it allows us to do it without removing anything, meaning less time being spent and less money we have to charge the customer. After that, we're gonna have to recharge the system, make sure the heat pump is working, so when it leaves the workshop, we're absolutely sure that it'll last for a long, long time. What we're trying to explain to you right now is that the flushing procedure we got going on right now, the possibility for us to do it without removing a single component is done because we fill up the entire system with liquid refrigerant. Once you do that, it means that the liquid refrigerant will go through the different solenoid valves and expansion valves, condenser, whatever is in the system, and basically drag out anything that might be in there. So therefore, we actually able to do that without removing a single component. In many cases, you do need to remove the compressor and the condenser to do the flush. But with this, because we're flushing with a very low pressure and filling up with liquid refrigerant, we can actually carry out everything at the same time as we actually carry out oil, debris, any kind of additive that should not be in there. Remember, you're not allowed by the OE to add UV dye to a heat pump system. That is simply not doable because it will void any warranty. So that's why with the machine we're using today, we can in general flush any system without it taking more than 1 hour. We have to remember that even if you do a flush, if you don't trust that your electronic solenoid valve or your expansor valve or anything else in the system that might cause a restriction, that you think there's still any kind of debris or contamination, you do have to remove that component and replace it. The flush is great and has to be done, but you have to remember that if there is any chance that there's still debris left in the system or in a specific component, you do need to remove it and replace it. To give you an idea of what it looks like once we flush the system without removing a single component, what we've done here is to show you exactly what came out, the coloration, and then comparing it to a normal PAGYF oil, which is used for the 1234YF system on this heat pump on this Peugeot E208. As you can see, this is the return oil or the used oil that came out, and the coloration is more or less like a really good aged beer, to be honest, but this is not the way we want it to look. The way we want it to look is more like this, when you have the new oil can right here, or canister. What we're going to show you now is the different colors of different oils once we flush the system to show an indication of something did go wrong with the compressor before it actually did break down. This is the PATYF oil used for a 1234YF system on a Peugeot E208. This is the used oil that we flushed and drained from the AC system or heat pump system from this vehicle. You can see that the coloration is slightly dark, or actually dark, or way darker than the new oil. That means that we've had some kind of indication that high heat or high pressure has been in the system, or too high heat and too high pressure. It could also be an indication that the oil was ingressing into the actual electrical circuit of the compressor, discolorating the actual oil. Therefore, this is an issue that we need to address, like when we looked at the compressor. Remember, when working on electrified vehicles like the Peugeot E208, to follow the guidelines from the manufacturer of the vehicles to make sure that you follow all safety precautions. Also make sure that you follow local regulations and use a certified electrified technician to do the service or repair. Now we prepare the vehicle to make sure that we can safely and securely remove the compressor that condensed in the dryer. In this case, the compressor is right here. We just remove the wheel and then it's fairly easy to get into it. Secondly, we're going to have to remove the condenser, which is right up here underneath. And the last thing we're going to do is replace the dryer. The dryer, every time we open up an AC system or heat pump system, always has to be replaced. In this case, we are removing and replacing the condenser because we find it the best in this case. And of course, the compressor that's broken down, we need to diagnose it and make sure that we find the right root cause. So if there is anything else we need to do with the heat pump system, we do it now instead of once we've charged it with refrigerant. So now we've actually taken off the parts. We've looked at the compressor and we've diagnosed what was actually wrong and the issue with the insulation. So what we're going to do now, we're going to open it and show you exactly what we found out when we actually took it apart. What we've done so far is that removed the cylinder head and taken part of the compressor apart. What we can see here is that the cylinder head is lying right here. We have the motherboard right here. What we can see on the cylinder is that we got oil ingression into the motherboard, and this could definitely be the reason why we have an insulation error that we've been told is the issue with this compressor. So we'll look further and see if we can find any more proof that this is actually the case. Now we've removed the condenser from the vehicle. As you can see, it looks fairly nice. There is some debris on it, but just to make sure and to be on the safe side, we will replace it even though we did flush the system. We just want to make sure that this is a heat transferring product that does protect the compressor from overheating. So therefore, we don't want to take any chances with a fairly inexpensive product to damage something that's even more expensive. So therefore, we will be replacing it. Now we're ready to install the new compressor. Every time you mount a new compressor, it's very important that you ensure that it's the correct oil in the compressor and as well the correct amount of oil in the compressor. Always follow the OEM or manufacturer's guidelines to make sure it's a correct oil amount in there. Always make sure to drain the oil, get the right amount and add it. But also make sure that it is the right quality of oil, especially with electric vehicles, because it could cause insulation problems. You also need to make sure that the oil always stays in the compressor so it doesn't drip out of it before you mount it. Once you're ready to mount the dryer on the vehicle, make sure that the caps are always on there, because on 1234 wave systems, air is reactive to 1234 wave. Therefore, it's important that the dryer that's supposed to remove air, moisture, and so forth is actually kept intact before you mount it. So now we've checked that the system is cooling and heating. So we replaced the compressor, we replaced the condenser, we replaced the dryer. The only thing we need to check now is that the system is actually clean using a visual diagnostic tool. That'll be the last step in this process. So the last thing we have to do is to check that the system is completely clean. We're using a visual diagnostic tool with a sight glass where we can actually check what's going on. Then we close the valves and check what it looks like. It's perfect, it's clean, so now we can give back the vehicle to the customer.